the kind of central issue I'd like to kind of see as the theme of what I want to put forth today is how we understand what design means within a humanistic context for research. And when I got to, so that's really the question. What do we mean by design in the context of humanities research questions in digital humanities? And I think that when I got to the University of Virginia, my background is sort of complicated because I do make books and I have kind of a hands-on art experience, but I'm also a historian of things visual and print and written and so forth. So I'm really interested actually in what I call visual epistemology and the ways in which knowledge creation and production actually take visual form and expression. And that's not, a field that has a comfortable home in the academy, oddly enough. It doesn't quite fit in design schools, and it certainly doesn't fit in art history programs. And so, where does that fit to begin with? And so when I think about design, I'm really thinking about it as an epistemological practice, one that has to do with understanding the relationship between formal expression and intellectual models of knowledge, models of interpretation, or models of behavior and practice. And so in that sense, design really is much more than simply, form and style. It really is modeling. It's modeling environments, it's modeling problems, it's modeling questions, and so forth. And when I got to Virginia, I have to say that there was very little culture of design at the University of Virginia at all. Fantastic architecture school, landscape architecture, and so forth. But graphic and visual design of any kind was really not present. It has to do, again, we could talk about this in terms of the history of the academy and the way in which universities work. But, design is a very funny field within academic worlds. And the University of Virginia, with its tradition of making sure people come out with a liberal arts education, and heaven forbid they should have job skills, has had a phobia within its long history for anything that looked like pre-professional training. Now, it's true I went there to make media studies, a media studies program, and it was clear, that's a whole other story, interesting to talk about, how you give a liberal arts intellectual sort of spin to that so that it doesn't look like, heaven forbid, job training. But because design has been, I think, in many ways associated with a kind of professional track, the sense of how it integrates more broadly into intellectual questions is not something that was part of that environment when I got there. And yet people were doing design, and they're doing design at many levels. And those many levels, I think, would be familiar to those of you here. A database is a design. It's a model of knowledge. It anticipates various kinds of behaviors that have to be modeled into end-user activities from the outset. It is also a design in the kind of more nuts and bolts sense, which is what goes where graphically in order to indicate the relationship of elements to each other within a structure that might or might not reveal all of the intellectual background, but presents to a viewer user certain kinds of possibilities for access and use. And we know that access and use are not the same thing. So again, thinking about the relationship of those two things is one of the things that I think is very compelling as a design question. So to have an explicit language of design and visuality as an aspect of that was, I felt, what I brought to Virginia's already fully developed by the time I got there and very exciting digital humanities community.